What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative, a channel where I like to talk about all sorts of fun bookish related things in the science fiction, fantasy, horror, and manga genres. And in today's episode of fun, I'm going to outline all of the new series that I plan to start in 2021. Recently, I put up a video about the series that I'm going to continue from 2020. So I will put that in the cards if you're interested to see what I'll be continuing in 2021 that I started in 2020. But this one is all about new series. What I mean by new series, it's either a series that I've never read before, or it's a series that I'm going to be rereading from the very beginning, and I'm starting that journey in 2021. So without further ado, let's jump right on in. Starting in January, I will begin my Malazan journey. Mike's Book Reviews is doing a Malazan read-along. It's going to take longer than a year to get through the books because we're going to take one book per 2-month period. But this is a series by Steven Erikson that I have never read. So I'm looking forward to getting into it and seeing if it is something I will enjoy. Will it become a new favorite of mine? So I am looking forward to beginning that journey with Gardens of the Moon in January. So in conjunction with the Malazan read-along, since Mike is doing one book per 2-month period, I decided to offset. So I do fully intend to read the first Malazan book to its completion in January, so that would give me February off from Malazan. So I decided to supplement it by beginning a reread of The Wheel of Time. I have no idea how many times I have read and reread this series. I started it when it began in the 90s, and I've just continued it, and most of the time I reread the series before the next book would come out. So I'm going to start that journey again starting in February. And before I go any further, let me mention any of the series that I'm going to show to you today that I'm planning to start in 2021. If you're interested in reading those with me, or they're a favorite series of yours and you want to hear what I think as I go, I'm going to have channels for these series in my Discord. The link is in the description box down below if you'd like to join. If you want to chat, that's great. If you just want to lurk and see what I'm saying, that's fine too. Just click that link below and come and join us. So in 2021, I am going to read the Mistborn series. I will begin with Era 1 and of course follow it up with Era 2. So I will be able to complete those two eras in 2021. I don't know if I'll get any further in the Cosmere than these two series with their supporting novellas, but of course if time allows, I will continue. I also want to try and get the Skyward series in, so we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Next up, a trilogy I'm very excited about, and thank you to the most wonderful Penny from my patrons who gifted me this book. I will be returning to the Blasted Lands with the Of Blood and Bone trilogy by John Gwynne. I am very much excited to read this series. I've heard absolutely nothing but good things from those who did read it. Y'all, Faith of the Fallen was one of my most favorite discoveries of a new series that I was able to read and complete last year. So John Gwynne has a very special place in my heart. He's one of my favorites. I am so excited to read this series. Next up will be the Greenbone Saga, I'm a Terrible Person. This was actually voted to be a patron buddy read in November. I failed. I just had too much going on, and well, the book got held up from getting sent to my bookstore, so it didn't come in until very late in the month, and then I just didn't have time to squeeze it in because I stuck another book in its place, and yeah, excuses are over. I'm going to read Jade City and Jade War in 2021. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be any longer than those two books, but if another one comes out in 2021, I plan to be ready for it. The next series I plan to get started is by Jen Lyons. It is the Ruin of Kings is the first book. I believe the cover for the second book was just announced. I'm not sure how many it's going to be, but this one is one of the ones that Jessie May and Elliot Brooks are going to buddy read this year, and they've invited anybody who wants to join in with them. So what better way to get started on this series than to do it with two booktubers that I really, really love. The next series I am very, very excited about. The City of Brass by, I cannot say the last name to save my life. I bet all of you know who this author is. So say it silently to yourselves for me and help a sister out. This is a series I'm really excited about. Angela from Literature Science Alliance, she reread it and she really enjoyed it. And then Stephanie at Miss Richards Read, she read the first two and put a video out about it. And she just kind of cemented that I needed to read the series. And I added it to my wish list. And then Stephanie gifted me the first book. It is so beautiful. It smells delicious. So I am very excited to read this trilogy this year. So in 2020, I read my first Star Wars book, and it was the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, the first book, Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn. Well, I had no idea he had two previous trilogies, but once I read Chaos Rising, I made it a priority to read the original series. So I was lucky, and they put out a beautiful hardback 20th anniversary edition to the first book in that trilogy, Heir to the Empire. So this one is definitely on my list to read this year. I may also get to the second Thrawn trilogy. We'll just kind of have to wait and play it by ear because y'all, I have quite a few new series I want to try this year. Next up, guys, I will be going on a Greatcoats adventure. So I have Traitor's Blade here by Sebastian de Castell. Alan from the library in Alexandria gifted me this book for Christmas. I'm very excited to start this journey. I've heard that it is just absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to it. I know there are 4 books. I don't know if that's the completed series or if there are more to come, but I do plan to read those 4 books this year. The next series I plan to start in 2021 was recommended to me by one of my patrons, Ev. The Grey Bastards. This is by Jonathan French, who I want to say is an independent author. And I decided that I was going to have to read these books. Just the way she described them, it sounds like a fantastic spin on orcs that kind of took me back to my love for the game World of Warcraft, which I spent 5 years of my life in, and my very first toon was an orc warrior. So I had to have this series. The covers are gorgeous, so I'm looking forward to reading these 2. I don't know if there is going to be a continuation after these 2 books or if it's just these 2. We will find out together. Next trilogy I'm going to read in 2021 is the Broken Earth trilogy, which was gifted to me by my friend Jessie from The Bookish Mom. Y'all, when I got this trilogy, I went through the roof. I'm so excited. I've heard so many wonderful things about N.K. Jemisin. I wanted to read her works. I kind of got overwhelmed. She has so many. I didn't know where to start. So Jessie sent me this trilogy. So I am very excited to read and discover the world of the Broken Earth trilogy. I'm also excited because the author signed a deal for all of her books to be adapted to film. So that made me really excited to start discovering her work. So for sure, I'm going to read the Broken Earth trilogy. After we see how I think about that, we'll determine whether I can fit another one of her series in. So more on that later. I also have the Shadow and Bone trilogy I want to read by Leigh Bardugo. I've not read any of her works yet. So this is a trilogy that has also been adapted to a TV series, I believe, that should be getting released probably any time now. So I wanted to read these before that show starts. Of course, I don't have to start the show until I finish the books if I choose. But I do want to try Leigh Bardugo. I've heard a lot of good things about her work as a whole. So that's a trilogy I plan to knock out in 2021 as well. Next is a trilogy that I've read the first 2 books. I never knew there was a 3rd book until I happened to see it in one of the used bookstores around where I live. But another book that was on Jessie and Elliot's buddy read for 2021 was Hood by Stephen Lawhead. And so it is a trilogy. It's Hood, Scarlet, and Tuck. So I plan to reread the first 2 and follow it up and complete the trilogy with the final book this year. The series I plan to discover for the first time and get started on in 2021 is the Alex Versus novels by Benedict Jacka. I've heard so many good things about him. This is a book that was sent to me by my best friend Brian, and I just never got it worked in for 2020. So I'm not sure how many books are in this series, and I think it's still actually an ongoing series, but this is an urban fantasy series I plan to start in 2021. Following in that same vein of urban fantasy, I'm going to start the Iron Druid Chronicles by Kevin Hearn. Again, this was a gift to me by my best friend Brian to see if it was something that I was going to like. Of course, to me, it sounds very similar to Harry Dresden. I bet I will love it. Again, I'm not sure if it's a completed series or if it's still a continuation, but I plan to get started on this series in 2021 as well. Next up, this is more of a kind of start over. I read Magician Apprentice by Raymond Feist in 2020, and I absolutely loved it, gushed over it. I just never continued the Riftwar saga. There's actually like 31 books in the whole Riftwar cycle, but I'm going to break them up in chunks because they're kind of released in chunks. So I'll follow it up with Magician Master and Silverthorn, and I believe there's actually one more that goes with this set that will complete the Riftwar cycle. So for Raymond Feist, I'm going to reread Magician Apprentice and then just finish out this clump in the saga. So in 2020, I picked up The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, and I read a little over 100 pages and I put it down. I didn't know it at the time. I was in a slump, and I think that the pacing of this book just was not working out for me for the slump that I was in. So I put it down and said I was going to come back to it. So I'm going to pick this one back up and see how it goes. And if it goes well, I'll continue the Gentleman Bastards series. I believe there are 3 books. I'm not sure if it's a completed series or not. But if this one goes well, the next time I pick it up, I'm going to continue that series and get it caught up to date. And if those 300,000 new series weren't enough, plus the series that I plan to continue from 2020, why not throw in Outlander? I have read the first few books of Outlander. I really enjoyed them, but for some reason, I just fell off the train in continuing the series. So I'm going to start from the beginning because it's been a few years since I read the first few books. So I'm going to start from the beginning with the first one and then start working my way back through this series. So I feel like a good historical fiction will be good to kind of put in and break up the pacing from all of the manga, horror, science fiction, and fantasy that I read. So we're going to diversify a little bit and get a little romance thrown up in 2021 and see how it goes. Okay. So I have some lofty goals for 2021. If you saw all the series that I'm going to continue from 2020, and then if you combine with that all of the series that I talked to you about today that I'm going to start in 2021, your girl will not be bored. I will not run out of anything to read this year. So if any of these series are series you're interested in or you're also planning to read and you want a buddy read, hit me up in the comments below, or if there are any that are your favorites and you want to gush about it, you want to experience as I read along, click the link in the description box and come join me on Discord. It's going to be a fantastic year of reading. Guys, as always, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and taking part and seeing what is going on in my little corner of the world and my lofty aspirations for things I want to read in 2021. I hope your morning got off to a wonderful start. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.